And so now, without further ado, let me officially invite Amanda Buck and Sue Anderson into the conversation. I'm just going to read a little bit out of your bios, ladies. And we're going to be, I haven't said already, the topic today is the importance of a community centre to community. And just to say, when I was having our pre-call with these two wonderful souls, I was so impacted by what they were saying to me. I felt like I wanted to open a community centre myself. It was just so inspiring. So let me just read out a little bit. I'm really looking forward to this conversation again. So Sue Anderson spent 40 years working within the private, public and voluntary sector in particular, working within communities. So hearing about the three principles around 5 years ago, she heard something deep in her heart, and from that moment on, she knew her life was going to be very different. Sue said she felt like she'd come home and she was sure that she wanted to share that feeling for the rest of her life. So Amanda Buck has worked in the voluntary community sector for 24 years, working to regenerate areas of deprivation, including communities that have a high level of people from other ethnic backgrounds. So she originally trained in community development, but Amanda creates healthy communities through the care, support and loving attention that she gives to everyone who walks through her door by providing crisis intervention in the venue she manages in Brecon Hill in Middlesbrough, UK, which is in the northeast. I found out the other day when we were speaking. I wasn't quite sure where that was. So wonderful. Well, welcome, ladies. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Sheila.
Not here again, but here in conversation again. Wonderful. And great that you're together. So you're together doing the tech stuff together, as I know you love tech, right?
Into the hip.
So I always like to start with a little sort of mini personal story on some level from each of you, to let people know a little bit about who you are, even though I've read the official bio out, and people can read more about you on the website too. There's more there to read. So if you just both, not at the same time, whoever wants to go first, you do that for me. Thank you.
Okay, it's Sue that's going first. So really, my whole life has been around community. Even when I reflected on my childhood, I was one of those young people that used to organise all the other young people on the estate to clean it up and to wash cars and go shopping for older people and all that kind of thing. So community's been in my blood for a long time. So much so that my first work was in community development, and any employment I've had, as you said, in the private, public and voluntary sector, has always been helping communities to be the best that they could be. And I just remember there's one little thing from childhood that I've still got now that I hold on to dearly, and it's a tin globe that I used to look at, and I used to think, do you know what, I'm going to travel the world, but the other thing is I'm going to make a difference as well. And I've still got that with me, and you know, at times when I just need it, I can kind of look up there and, you know, it sparks that heart and that love back off. So yeah. And then about 5 years ago, I was introduced to the lovely Mr. Dickin, and life's changed from that moment on, really. And it's just made the work that I do just be so much more meaningful and deeper, and I'm just enjoying every moment. So that's me in a little nutshell.
We'll hear more from you later for sure. Great. Thanks.
Hi, so I'm Amanda. I've been working in the voluntary sector for about 27 years, predominantly managing community centres or going in areas of deprivation to create a community centre. I was only introduced to the principles about 3 years ago through Sue Anderson, and Sue came to the centre and said, I've got this fantastic programme I need you to see, I need you to hear, and will you give me an opportunity to, you know, to talk to you about it? And after listening to Sue, it was kind of like introducing me to something that was an answer, if you kind of understand that. Within the environments I work, quite often it's crisis based, so it's people that are facing having the children taken off them, or could be self-harming, or facing relationships that are breaking down, quite negative situations. And quite often I felt like the sticky plaster, the band-aid, just used to fix that problem for them. But what Sue introduced me to was a completely different approach of giving people the skills and sharing with them, and hopefully them then having the skills to do something a bit more long term, so that they didn't become reliant on me. And to be honest, the impact in our community has just been fantastic, because people are just becoming healthier, much more improved mental well-being. They've got a really good opportunity to understand this, and they're using it to the best of their ability. So we're making masses of changes, and it's just fantastic that this comes from the principles which everybody should have in their hearts.
Beautiful. I know when we talked before, you shared lots of really impactful stories with me of how people are organically coming to seek you out now. They're like, they've heard about what's happening at the centre. There's something a bit different about what you're doing in your community centre. Can you talk a bit about that? Because that's what I found so really inspiring to hear.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is what we've had to do, as you can imagine, Shirley, you've got to say what's formless into form sometimes. So we developed a 6-week programme, and it was funny because Amanda said, what we're going to call it, and Sid's book was beside me, Second Chance. So I said, oh, Second Chance. So we actually just named the programme there and then. So it's a 6-week programme, and we managed to get it funded by the local community learning service. So what happened was we introduced it into the community and had some local residents do it, and it was bobbing along really lovely. And then out of the blue, all of a sudden, we started getting social workers and public health workers and police officers, endocare nurses, school counsellors, and all sorts of different people. Obviously they're in the community, but we were thinking, I think just initially, of mums and dads that come into the community centre and maybe get the CVs done, or they come in and they've got some crisis going on. But all of a sudden it was like the doors were blown open, really. So it's just been no surprise the amount of different people that's starting to access it. And people either being self-referring, or being referred, or just being recommended to come along. So it's just been amazing, and we've had the programme running for about 3 years now, and we're able to do about between 12 and 15 programmes a year. So
what makes us different is quite often you can access a statutory service. So if you've got money problems, you would go to the Citizens Advice Bureau, who can resolve any debt issues. Or if you've got relationship problems, you can go to a mediation service. But quite often, members of the community don't want to get into going into them statutory provisions, and often fear that if they disclose something, that it's going to have an impact either on their benefits, or what the school teachers might think if mum and dad are going to mediation. And they're always concerned about the other effects to accessing services. Whereas when they come to a community centre, we're not attached to any statutory bodies, not part of the police or the local authority or social services. So when we engage with them, and Sue says this all the time, we engage with them from the heart. We're not bound by red tape. We're just there to listen and hopefully help and resolve. And then to see somebody come in at such a low point in crisis and be able to put them on this programme, it's like something that's not delivered or on offer in our area. And it's kind of like a fresh air for somebody to say, what, you're not putting me on a parenting course? Let's go do a course about 3 principles, and my parenting and other abilities will increase as a result. So it's really nice that it's not attached to any stigmas or subjects or scenarios, yet we're fixing, you know, their stigmas and their scenarios. So it's a really unique approach.
Mm.
Really privileged to have the opportunity to do that.
You know what I heard and what you were saying is, like, because we know the 3 principles are neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like your community centre is a neutral place, if you like, for people to come to. So that's why it so marries so really very nicely.
Yeah, I would say that really works, because nobody knows why you were coming in.
Say that again. The sound's going a bit in and out at the moment. I'm not sure if it's your internet connection, but it's going in and out. Yeah, you can just.
Nobody knows why anybody would come into the community centre, because we've got a community cafe here. We've got other training that people can be offered. So there's no questions about why anybody would walk in here and, you know, and be involved in anything. So that's neutral, which is beautiful. Mm-hmm. So it just works for people.
Mm. So I jumped right in there because I wanted to get to the piece where I wanted to get to, but just to backtrack a little bit in terms of our topic today,
mm-hmm.
the importance of the community centre and community, which I think you've addressed really well in terms of it's a neutral place, and people, you know, they're not coming in, there's no stigma and stuff. And then the overarching thing, community begins within you. How, I'm curious, because I'm asking obviously for the audience of people out there. So Amanda, my understanding when we spoke last time is you started this community centre. Am I right in remembering that?
Yeah, I was employed by the charity that had acquired the building. Yes. I
see. So, because I'm thinking about this piece of community begins within you. How do you see that in being relevant to the work that you're doing right now in the community centre?
Yeah, when I first took the employment on, it was just an empty building, a brand new empty building, which was really nice. And the trustees had already decided it was going to sit on educational grounds, because the charitable objectives was around improving the quality of lives of those people that live in this area. But I came into an empty building that had nothing. And it was, you know, you've got to do that scoping exercise. You've got to know your community. So I had to do all the mapping around, you know, who lived in this community, what were the problems, what were the concerns. And what's really good for us as a charity is we always respond to community needs. So over the past 14 years, we've changed our programme of activity. You know, we've been able to engage and do projects specifically around community cohesion with young people, or we've done projects around the isolated elderly individuals. So you've got to know your community before you can even start to engage with them. And then it's about having that process. It's almost about having the right characters, because you need to be part of that community. People need to trust and to build their relationships with you in order to accept the things that you're going to offer, without them feeling that, you know, there's a reason behind that. So you do really have to get involved in the community, carry out various exercises, attend meetings. I can remember in my early days spending a lot of time at the corner shop, and just casually talking to people to find out what was going on in the area, what they wanted to see. So it's about building all of that up. And I was really fortunate that I came into an area where they were so responsive. And I think that's classic about deprivation areas, because when things aren't going good, they're more receptive to allow help in. When things are really good and you're in an affluent area where there's no crime, then everybody's quite happy just getting on with their day-to-day life. So unfortunately, where there's crisis, people are a bit more receptive, because everybody wants a better life. Nobody wants to continue living like that. So we're really lucky that we're in areas where people do want to access our help and support. So we've got that really good footing of engagement to start with.
Mm. That's really insightful for me, because I said honestly, when we finished talking last time, I thought, oh, it'd be wonderful to open a community centre, in my area, and how would I go about doing that? And I think hopefully I'm asking that question for other people too. So it's interesting. I didn't realise that you've been employed by a charity initially. I didn't catch that part last time when we spoke. I remember asking you about. I think it's interesting for people to hear about how does it run financially? How does the community centre run financially? And I think you mentioned, well, you tell me what you told me then, I think.
I'm trying to do it. So it's about getting that balance of running a building where you've still got an income stream coming in. So we do have private, public and voluntary sector organisations involved. And we do rely solely on trusts and grants and donations. So quite a lot of my time is spent writing funding bids or working with a team of people to access grants. But the principles tells us that if we believe in this enough, that it will happen. And we've done lots of programs. Sue's first program wasn't funded. Sue did it as an in-kind gift. So we accept that you can't sustain everything, but we work really hard through rentals, different projects, different initiatives, different grants, really. And it's, we balance the books, don't we? Very, very carefully.
Yeah, I remember when we talked last time, you were telling me that you don't know how it happens, but it does. You just got faith that things are going to turn out, and you keep pointing yourselves in the right direction, and that seems to happen for you. That's what I remember.
I know people have it that there's a lot of different charities and people going for different funding nowadays. I think if you believe in something enough and you've got some skills around you to, I guess, put the right words down for the different funders, but also the reputation of your charity, the reputation of your people that work within the charity, the reputation of the work that you do, I do think all of those things kind of stand in good stead for getting support. And if the formless is working, the funding will come.
Yeah, I get that. So something that's a bit different for that's not actually about a community centre per se, but you might disagree, is the conference that you're putting too. So that kind of just popped into my mind when you were saying that. If you've got the sort of principles in mind, things will happen, and you had real success with that last year, didn't you? Was it the first time you did it last year? Yeah,
absolutely. It was something that we had in our minds, just to spread the word a little bit more, really, and try and get us in people's hearts and in people's minds. And we were lucky enough, we held our hands out to Bill and Linda Pettit last year, and they just grabbed hold with both hands and come over. And we had Dave and Jenny and Stephen Tony, Annie Poole and Jacqueline Hollows. I mean, we held our hands out, and they just got hold of them and said, we'll support you. And we had a fantastic conference with what I would say would be, it was only 100 people, but hey, 100 people is 100 people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them not even knowing what they were coming to. They didn't know anything about the three principles, but they were trusting us to say, do you know what, come along, have a listen. And I'll tell you what, it was the best loving space I've ever been to. It was great. So it was really great. So, and Dickens going to come this year, so that'll be even.
So you're putting it on again this year then?
Yeah, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a one-day conference this year, because unfortunately the funding hasn't come alongside. But you know what? We don't want to do always the same old. We want to go with the feeling, and caring is something that seems to be coming up a lot for people in terms of, caring for family members, caring for people in the community, caring for our children, So, you know, having a little conversation today sparked something off about, you know, when Dickens around, there's love and caring going on anyway. So, hey ho, let's see what happens.
Brilliant. I just think I wanted to share that because I think that speaks to kind of diversity of what you're offering in your community centre.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, well, it would be actually, perhaps that would be a nice place to explore as well, is what, I know you mentioned very briefly, Amanda, earlier on about some of the services that you offer. And maybe, can you speak a little bit more about something specific that includes the principles, obviously, that you're offering, and that that has really had a big impact? Because I know you shared some stories with me before.
Yeah, so we, within the community centre, there's lots to offer. So we've got, you know, we get quite a lot of single males coming to the building, and we probably see between 75 and 100 people a day accessing the facility, which is a huge building. We're, you know, just a bit bigger than a standard house, really, just all on one level. So we get people males coming for training, and they're all getting prepared for employment. We have people that have been made redundant. We then have projects that are specifically focused at, you know, achieving something. So like community cohesion, or we've got a youth project addressing antisocial behaviour. And the youth project is predominantly Czech, Polish and Slovakian young people. It's predominantly white British males that are accessing our training. But then the other programme of training that we offer, we get everything from, you know, British Muslims, Indian, Black African, you know, asylum seekers, refugees,
People from
Iraq, Iran, yeah. And what's really important is, because we've embedded the 3 principles within everything that we deliver, there's that lovely sense of just belonging. It doesn't matter what your colour or your faith or your gender or ethnicity is. There's a sense of belonging when you enter into the centre. And that just makes it a lot easier to engage with people and to achieve outcomes. We have specific people that, you know, have needed a lot more support that have benefited. So we've got, well, you can talk about some of your clients that you've had. I'm throwing it back to you now.
Yeah, we've had a number of young people, young women particularly. I'm just thinking of one in particular recently started on the programme. And after the first session, had a bit of a meltdown. And what it needed was, it needed Amanda and I to kind of help her to stabilise, really, because, you know, she was faced with losing her home. We'd found out that she'd just been living off the children's benefits and not facing the benefits agency with where she was at, and a whole host of things. And that was just after like one session in the Second Chance programme. She's partway through the programme. She's doing extremely well. She's accessed all the support that Amanda can help. She's saved a home. She's sorting out the benefits. If you saw her now, she's got a big smile on her face. She just seems fit for purpose, Sheila. It's kind of like beautiful seeing her step into her own space again, really. Because you know, if she was here, she'd say she was lost for a while. And for me now, looking for her, is she's not going to look back, you know. And this will pass on to her 4 children as well, which is absolutely brilliant. And that's just, you know, one of the young women that's accessed the course recently. But we've also had, you know, police officers that accessed us through the doctor's surgery. They saw our leaflets and they were off with stress, and we've got them back at work and glowing, which is phenomenal, you know. And you know, there's some other beautiful stories in terms of people, a social worker, an Asian guy who's a social worker. he just feels like he's doing his social work very differently now, and so very excited about Sid Banks saying things that are said in particular books in 3 words rather than hundreds and thousands of words. So he's pointing and saying, what we hear here is the truth, and those 3 words mean a lot to me. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
What oh, there's a bit of feedback. I know we're struggling a little bit with the sound. I think somebody said it's a bit difficult to hear. I'm thinking is that when something about your speaker, when you change over, it takes time to come into recognising somebody's voice or something. But we'll
Okay.
go with it. No, that's better. I've forgotten what I was going to ask then. I got distracted with the sound. I was going to ask something along the lines of, what's the biggest difference that you've noticed since coming across these 3 principles, which might be, for somebody that's never heard about these 3 principles that might be listening, maybe just to talk about that briefly, what that means to you, what you've seen about the principles. But I'm kind of curious in terms of running the community centre before and running the community centre after. What's the biggest differences, I suppose? Maybe you're in contact with other people in other community centres.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps are. So what do you? Maybe that's probably a better question. What do you see the difference between yours and theirs?
Yeah, I currently manage community centres. One of them has had the 3 principles embedded in it for about the last 2 to 3 years. That all of the staff and all of the training providers know this information. They've one of Sue's programs, and they have a deeper understanding. The other community centre, which I've only been there for a couple of years in a part-time capacity, not many within that organisation have done the training with Sue. So quite often, they're that busy getting on with work that they forget to give time to people. They forget to develop and use their listening skills. And the difference in both is purely based on what other people say. So when they come to Brecon Hill, they feel like they've walked into a family environment, and that everyone is so receptive, they feel at ease, they feel really comfortable, safe and warm. When they go into the other building, they said, I feel as though I'm walking into a community centre that I'm not known. And I don't get that feeling or warmth around being amongst people that I know and trust. So there's definitely a positive feedback from our community in terms of how they feel it's changed. Personally, for me, it's the people that have changed when they've been on the programme. So they stop becoming, and re-offending's the wrong word to use, but they stop going back into that crisis mode of living. Because after they've got this understanding, they become more resilient. They find their own wisdom. They start to listen to their own true self. So it stops becoming that scenario of, well, I had a problem last week and I'm back again because I've got a problem this week. It just develops their own ability to deal with situations far more better. And if they're not dealing with the situations far better, at least they're not allowing their situations to ruin everything that they're experiencing in their life. They understand that things can be really, really tough, but actually they can get through this. So it's lovely to see people from becoming dependent to becoming very resilient and happier and contented. And for that, for me, that's one of the biggest rewards ever about having the opportunity of sharing and having Sue here delivering a programme that, isn't accessible anywhere else in the North East. I'm very, very proud and very humble over it. Yeah.
So she's a gift that walked through your door at some point.
Definitely. Yeah, she definitely is.
Oh, so to follow on from that, so I mentioned about the three principles. Could you, and when I was introducing you, you said on your bio, it's something about you got the feeling and you want to share this for the rest of your life. Can you explain to people that are listening that probably have no understanding what you mean? What do you mean, basically? What do you mean by that? So that will probably take a little bit of explaining about the principles as well. So.
I think for me, you know, having done community work all of my life, just being with people and being in a special place for them and really deep listening is really something that kind of like the principles have allowed me to do it in a very we've got another phone call going on, Sheila, at the phone.
I could hear that. Don't worry.
No, it's kind of like, you know, when you can feel your own heartbeat. Like sometimes when I've engaged with people, I can feel like I'm together with them. So whether it be two people, a group of people, and sometimes you can feel that in a community. It's almost, you can feel a heartbeat in a community. Mm. If it's that whole idea of connection, it's an energy that it starts with you, but you can feel it wider than that. Yeah. And I think for me, certainly, I know I was born with it, and I always feel like it's been within me. But with the principles and understanding the whole concept, or the whole understanding of thought, mind and consciousness, what it's just allowed me is to almost turn my volume up, almost turn my radar up, almost turn that limitless capacity to engage and connect with everything in my life. It just feels like it's on full volume. And it's just a really beautiful space to work from and work in. You know, and the whole thing, you know, even within our program, you know, once people have grasped hold of the whole idea of, you know, your thinking is a big part in how you live your life and how you create your day-to-day space. You know, just grabbing hold of that one thing for some people makes all the difference in the world. And then the thing that follows on around mind being the greater intelligence and knowing that we're all part of that. You know, sometimes when the groups start to gel, you can feel that pulse and they get what mind really is, that oneness. And then the consciousness bit for people, the thing that brings all our thoughts alive, you can just see people dropping into a space and thinking, oh my goodness, you know what, I've known this all of my life. And it's like, Sue, you were not doing anything. It's me. You know, it's just like holding a mirror up to the individual, and they're going, oh my goodness, I forgot. My best friend has been with me all this time and holding out for me, and oh my, Sheila, it's just beautiful, really. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's answered the question.
Oh yeah. It wasn't that. So I don't think it was actually in the words, as they say in the, you know, the world of the principles. I can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you were talking about the heartbeat of the community, and it was just like, yeah, that's just beautiful. That really is. It really touched me.
I think what's really nice, Sheila, is that too often, you know, without setting the intentions, gives people like a tool or a technique that makes it really easy for them to understand this. We had a member of staff who, you know, we spent every day, every morning, having to sort out her family relationships. You know, she couldn't do a job until she'd offloaded everything that she needed to do. And she, you know, every day was spent doing that. And it, as a manager, came actually quite time consuming, but really important for me to offer that support. And we put her on the course with Sue. And what was really nice was Sue was very quick at realising that she got, you know, really dragged into her thinking around the situations and circumstances in which she lived. But Sue would say to her, so are you getting on the train? Are you going to get on the train, or are you going to get off at the next stop and stop thinking about it? It's up to you. You can get on the train and get off. You can let the train go past the station. You know, all the power is yours. It's your decision. And what was really nice was 2 or 3 weeks later, she would come into work and she would just used to say, I'm on the train, so leave me, and I'll get off when I'm ready. But it was a really light-hearted technique that she developed through the training that made her realise that, you know, some days she paid far too much attention to things, and she really didn't need to. And then some days she needed to let us know that she was really in some, as Sue calls it, stinking thinking. And that just allowed us to then, you know, give a bit more space and just be more supportive and not even bring anything to her attention so that she could have a better day. And, you know, I say to a lot of people when they do the training, Sue's going to reset your default setting. There's a little button and it's a default setting. And you're going to come out and you're going to realise that life is so much easier and better once you understand it. And it's just a really nice thing that people then come out and say, oh my goodness, you're absolutely spot on. So it's them little techniques. And again, I think that's about knowing how your community understands, listen and learn. You know, you've got to really, well, Sue really delivers this at a grassroots level when it's required. And people get it. It's brilliant.
I get that. I'm going to there's some lovely comments come in, so I want to just share those with you right now. So Mandy Spray, who was on yesterday for the Tally Summit, she said, so inspiring to hear about real grassroots projects. Wonderful. Lots of kisses. And then when you were speaking later, she said, I think this is when Sue was speaking, what a wonderful feeling, which is what I said, the heartbeat of the community. Beautiful. Thank you. And then Janelle has sent a comment in as well to say, you both hold such a lovely feeling and your work is so inspiring and gives me some new ideas of where to take this work next. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Janelle, because that is, for me, that's a huge part of this Tally Summit, is to really share what people are doing and spread the word and hopefully inspire others, because we've all got our own path, our own way to be going in the world. So it's not necessarily copying what people are doing, but actually to trigger the ideas. I think that's wonderful. Which actually leads me into something that came up for me when I was listening to you, was so Sue came in and ran this program for you, Amanda. Mm-hmm. What if somebody else would like, so just as a hypothetical question, so say my local community centre that I don't even know if it exists yet, I'm going to go and find it. If I wanted to go and run a programme in there, what would you suggest was the best way to get your foot in the door, if you like? Because I know there's lots of people around the world that really would love to be sharing the principles and would love to go into their local community centre. So how you know, you're the one that would say, you're kind of the gatekeeper, right? And would say yes or no. How do we get past the gatekeeper?
Well, I think it's understanding what that community centre has been established for, doing a bit of background about the type of people that are accessing that venue and what issues they might be facing. Because like everyone, when you're managing a building or working in a community centre, we're all looking for something that's going to benefit our community, not directly us, but our community. And quite often, you know, if price is bought into it as a charity, we go, oh, you know, it's a bit terrifying. We haven't got the budget to do that, or we're going to have to access a grant or some funds to do that. So I think if you're approaching everyone, it's being mindful that, you know, you're wanting to share something that has a huge value to a community. You know, it has a huge impact. And if you can get the manager or the supervisor of a building to understand it themselves, then they're your advocates. They're going to be out there sharing this and spreading this. And that's where I think, Sue and I have been quite a good partnership together, because I got it straight away from Sue. And I immediately saw how in my role I could ripple that out even further. And then I saw as a partnership, or as a couple, a pair working together, how much impact, how much further we could do it. So I think it's about buying the person in and getting them to really see the benefits. And, I had lots of personal benefits. I had lots of stories where, this understanding really helped me through some really tough times myself in a personal capacity. And I think because I felt the benefits, I immediately saw how other people could. Just needed to trust in Sue, and that's what we did. Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I think that's helpful. Over to you, Sue. You give your side of the story.
5 words. Are you ready? Walk into the community centre, have a conversation, listen deeply, get a feeling, be all you can be, and connect.
Perfect. Go on, repeat it. The formula. Sue's secret formula. Forget everybody listen. Sue's secret formula for getting into community.
Walk in the front door, Sheila. Walk in, have a conversation.
Yeah.
Listen deeply. Get the feeling. Connect with those people. Be all you can be. I'm going to throw another one in. Share all the love.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So I'm lost for words now. This is not a bad place to be. Well, it's not a great place to be when you're interviewing people. So the feeling, I think I just want, because I think people are really, you talk a lot about the feeling, and I felt that too on this call, and people have written in about the comments, because isn't that interesting that that's the thing that people comment on, and that's the thing that people really want. And that's what I'm hearing you say. Walk in and you kind of sharing the feeling of, what would you say, the feeling of love, the feeling of community, the feeling of life.
Yeah, people caring, hope.
Because Amanda said that earlier on, it's different. People feel the difference when they walk into our community centre versus other community centres, right? So it really is about the feeling. And that reminded me of, like, walking into my doctor's surgery, for example. There's no feeling. It's like you're just another number that they've got to get through, and that, it's a caring, supposedly, profession. But because of the way its system set up, they're not really got the time to do what they really want to do and be present with. Again, that's another one, isn't it? Be present.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say in terms of the community centre?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we always, all the staff, make sure we've all got time to be present with people. And it's almost like if you can give them a cup of tea and just 5 minutes of their time, that's worth millions to some people. So it's always with good intention in which we engage and greet people. That very first, couple of minutes at the walk through the door, really important.
When you mentioned staff, then that's another area, isn't it? I mean, I presume all the staff. Did you put them through the programme first?
Yeah, they were our pilot, our
staff and volunteers.
Guinea pigs. Yeah, there's actually only 2 members of staff. The rest are volunteers. We have up to 22 volunteers that are involved on a daily basis. And yeah, they were kind of like our guinea pigs, because I knew if it had such an impact on me and it had such an impact on them, what an impact could it have in our community? So we kind of started with them, didn't we?
And the management.
And the management committee, yeah, which were, oh my God, what are you introducing me to now? We've done everything. We don't need any more training. It's kind of like, no, this is different. You need to do it. So, yeah.
So what I'd love, I mean, that is a key point, isn't it? To make sure all the staff are, oh, you frozen. Oh, you're back again. To make sure that, well, as you say, volunteers. Wonderful to hear that you've got 22 volunteers. That's great, right? So would somebody walk in as, although it struck me now, is there somebody walk in as a volunteer and share the principles? You would be okay with that, right? That it's not costing you anything. It's not. And that's kind of what I heard when I asked you the question earlier on. That would be your suggestion, was to perhaps go in, and you're not going to ask for any money, but you're going to say, I've got something that really helps people. With Sue's secret formula.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no more comments or questions coming in for now. So I would love to hear some more stories, because you shared some stories with me before. Are you willing to share some more stories of transformation in your community centre?
Yeah.
Some individual.
Am I?
Yeah.
Go for it, Sue. Go for it.
There's one particular story that always kind of like sticks out in my mind, and a lady that come on one of the programs, and you know, she was very irritated at the beginning of the program, and I was kind of thinking, oh, I wonder if she's going to settle. You know, it was for herself really more than anything. And week 2, still a little bit fidgety, and it was like, just stay with this, just keep loving her and just stay with it. And 3rd week she got real quiet, and then she informed the group that she'd actually come off a medication. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. As long as you inform your doctor, etc., that would be involved with all of this, you know, it's kind of like your life, and you know, it's kind of like you've got to make decisions when you're ready to make them. So we continued the course, and 6 weeks through the course, you could tell the whole group were willing her on, and like she hadn't mentioned anything else afterwards. And the 6th week, it wasn't even me that said anything. It was like, well, are you still off medication and stuff like that? I said, absolutely, of course I am. So 9 months on now, the lady still pops in now and again, but she's on date nights with her husband. The social worker that was involved with her family and her children is not on her, like out of the way now, not working with them. She's doing a law degree. She's down 2 dress sizes. Just enjoying her life, and looks back and says, do you know what? That was a blip back there. I don't know what was going on. I'd obviously got into a whole load of stressful thinking, and it wasn't me. Like something took over, and here I am, you know, and she's in a great space. And, you know, that it was the last thing. I just never know what's going to happen when people come on the different programs, because you know, it's their journeys, so it's really interesting to hear, you know, at the end of them, what happened. I mean, that was phenomenal for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a huge amount of change.
Yeah.
In a relatively short amount of time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just moments when even things like, you know, we had 4 Muslim women, so there were British Asian women, but in the group, a German woman and 3 white British people, and 2 older women. And you know, there was one group session, there was just such a deep feeling, and so much so that everybody realised that the only thing that ever separated any one of them was their thinking about each other, about their culture, about their gender, about anything. And you know, well, I don't even do this in every session, but we just held hands for a moment, and the energy, the love that was there, the tears that flowed, it was just fabulous. And you know, it's not a regular thing, but it just felt right at that moment in time to connect on a physical as well as a formless level as well. And it's moments like that that just fill my heart so much.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So Mandy Spray's written in again, and she said, I've just taken a minute to arrange a visit to a local community centre.
Oh, lovely.
Good woman.
Thanks for being so inspiring. Well, you ladies just, a few minutes chatting, and people are off making changes. Isn't that wonderful?
I'll tell you what we had to do, Sheila, to be cheeky. What people might have to realise is that to get us involved in the community learning service, funding our programme, I had to develop some objectives and some outcomes for the participants. And I'm not a big one for paperwork, as a few people might tell you if they were listening on this call. So I wanted anything that the participants to do to create for the community learning service to be easy. So I got the learners to devise with me things that we would do to satisfy the needs of the people in form, so to speak. And we have a quiz about Sid.
You have a quiz about Sydney Banks?
Yeah, and 3 principles, which is really easy. And we have a couple of things where people can measure if things in their lives are getting any better. And then there's another thing where they're able to write about, what they thought about the course, one thing and another. And to tell you the truth, Sheila, on one level, you'd like to use the 3 principles inventory to measure it so you've got outcomes. But we've had to do it in a simpler way. But a researchers took it away to make it into some sort of formal research for us. But even just looking at some of the figures that people put down, so 1 to 10, have you improved? And people have wrote like 2 or 3 in certain areas, and then they're up to 8, 9 and 10 throughout. You're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. But for those people that have to have that information, it's really, really useful. But we made it up. But it still means something to those people. And the people participating in the programme were part of creating it. So it's organically grown,
Yeah, very clever of you, Sue.
Well, I just remember.
I call that genius. Wisdom.
No, that's been a conversation with Elsie and Chip a long time ago.
Oh, right.
You have to be a little bit like, you've got to do some things in the form now and again, but then you can go off on the formless.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
I've got another comment here from Steve. I imagine it's Steve who we know. I'm sure. Thank you, Sue and Amanda, for such an inspiring conversation. I know you two walk your talk, and this is such a gift of hope that you and the community centre share with everyone. Hope that no one is damaged or broken. Keep up all your amazing work. Big love from Steve.
Oh, big love back.
Yeah, big love back, Steve. Oh,
yeah.
See, you're inspiring people just back with this conversation, which I love. So, Amanda, have you got any story you'd like to?
Yeah, we had one of the young chaps who was actually on our board of trustees, or was at the time, was going through a period where his family had separated. He was fighting for full-term custody of his son. And what was really difficult for him was that there's all the bureaucracy and all the red tape around a single man, having custody of his child and all the things that need to be put in place. And needless to say, he was at endless court appearances, social services involved. He had to do lots of training. And what was really important for him was that
he had to have a successful outcome. He wanted to make sure his son remained with him. That was his primary goal. That was his driver. But what he realised through doing the training is that his thinking about all of them statutory bodies and the people in the courts and all the people that have to carry out the procedures, his thinking around what their procedures were was really getting in the way of him just saying what he honestly his intentions were to be. He got in that spiral of, well, I daren't say that I want my son to be at home and to sleep next to me, because I don't want the services to think that there's something inappropriate with what I'm saying. When he realised it was his thinking that was creating the situations or making them situations worse, when he realised that every time he engaged with the job centre or social services, that his thinking was not allowing him to be himself, it was really, really powerful, because he dropped all of that pretense. He was able to just go in there and just be the honest individual which he was, and just explain what he wanted from the outcome. And it was just absolutely fantastic, because he went from being, oh gosh, we've got him in again. I supported him in lots of meetings, and when I used to look around the room, their body language towards him was quite, oh, here we go again. We've got this scenario. When he got this information, he went into the room, and straight away, two of the advisors picked up and said, "What's different? What's changed? You're not aggressive. You're not confrontational. You're much more happier to resolve things in different approaches. You're more receptive." The changes that he'd created himself just by allowing this understanding was just unbelievable. And we look back 3 years down the line, and he is a fantastic single dad who is just bringing his son up in such a wonderful, loving environment. And he really does talk to other dads and say, you don't have to overcomplicate life. You don't have to be so serious about everything. And, to see him come in and see the differences, and also to have them stats, that somebody who was told he probably would never be able to have his children, now has his child at home in a really loving environment. And, it's just beautiful that it can be achieved. And achieved for so many people. They don't have to have a problem. They can just come in and get this information and, hopefully make some transformations to their own life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, another beautiful story. It really is. But going from kind of the impossible to the possible, and making it happen. Really, really touching. So you guys, when I'm going back to our comments, you guys have a bit of a reputation.
Do we?
Well, I think you were telling me something like that. You got a good, I meant in a good way, of course. Locally, you've got a good reputation for helping people make changes, right? Sustainable change.
Yeah, I reckon so. I mean, we've both been in the local area for a long time now, living collectively. And, I think having that reputation for being there for people and the things that we get our hearts to are very successful. I think that's really great. It's just beautiful. There's probably thousands of people that's kind of been through centres that we've both run, and and meeting them and even sharing this new information. It's just phenomenal, really.
Yeah, I think the reason I was thinking about reputation was because I know you told me, and you probably mentioned it earlier, that you get a lot of referrals. And one that stuck in my mind was when you told me about the policemen.
Yeah.
Get referrals from the policemen themselves.
Yeah.
They'll tell. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I find that very interesting.
Yeah, well, it's police officers and social workers and housing officers. So it's really interesting because one of the things that the attempt to do is get workers to access the programme so they know what they're sending, you know, their clients to or their people to.
Yeah.
But even, you know, even for them to go back to work, being more productive in their work and having more capacity themselves for their own client group is really important. But it you know, I was saying to Amanda, have you seen the list of people that's coming through? I mean, there's teachers coming through, adult education tutors coming through, people from the NHS are coming through, endocare nurses, I think I've mentioned. I mean, having somebody in a beautiful space at the end of your life, you know, and caring for you is phenomenal for me. And we've had directors of a health and social care business. We've actually just recently been asked in by a multinational chemical company to do some work with their HSE staff. The HR asked us in, and we were like, well, where the heck did that come from? So who knows where people talk about their what they're getting from our programme or what they're hearing from our programme. Who knows where it's spreading to? I don't know.
What that came to mind then. What about other community centres? Other community centres wanting to know what's going on at your community centre, and are they a bit curious?
There's a political answer to that, which is due to some of the financial restraints within local authorities. There's lots of the community centres that's closing, which is useful for Three Principles community to know. Because, you know, it's about being creative and keeping the community centres open. And I think one of the things that Amanda needs a medal for is you know, the capacity to keep this place open in times where, you know, austerity's kicked in. You know, and so some other community centres, some colleagues from other community centres have accessed it, but nobody's directly asked us in to do any work in other community centres. Because the other thing that's useful with even Amanda's way of financing her centre through having a private company buy some space, having the local authority buy some space, and having trust or charitable funding buy into a space, if you know what I mean, is a canny. There's a northeastern. Is a canny framework for trying to fund something to move forward.
Very innovative.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the next thing we're after is having a conversation with some of the politicians, really.
Oh, really?
Because well, what I'm realising more and more is this whole understanding can save a lot of money for a lot of services. You know?
That is very true. Yeah.
I mean, we've had staff and workers saying how much more productive they are. We've got this health and social care business saying, do you know what, if our workers were kind of had this understanding, then our customer care would improve and go through the roof, which means your business is going to be successful. You know, even within the NHS, God bless them, everybody's kind of like scratching their heads in terms of finance and finding ways of working with people. Some of this could save a lot of money, Sheila, you know?
Absolutely.
So some of it is about having conversations with commissioners of services, of funds, and who knows what could happen. I'm with Mara. One thought could change everything.
Absolutely, one solution. Yeah, one thought can change everything. So, are you approaching politicians then? A politician?
Slowly. It's having a mover and shaker in your local area, and we used to have a fantastic MP that I would have had no problem approaching, which was a lady called Mo Molan many years ago. But at the moment, we just haven't got that charismatic, or they haven't presented themselves to us yet. I think that's the thing. It's kind of like looking for the statesperson that's going to make a difference, really, and we're never going to give up.
No, yeah, if I've learnt anything about you two, is you're not going to give up, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I so admire the work that you're doing, I really do. And obviously people that have written in and have said how inspired they are, and you've already inspired Randy to go off and contact the local community centre. That is so, to me, invaluable and special. It's very special. And thank you, I said that to you last time, but thank you for the work that you're doing, because you're obviously doing such fabulous work and touching so many people's lives. And it's so heartwarming to hear that there are people like you in our communities doing this work. It really, really is. Hats off to you, ladies. I think you're doing a fantastic job, really do. Somebody's just said thanks to both ladies for the inspiration. Yeah, I mean, it is.
Thank you.
I think anybody's got questions, but they just want to keep saying to you, thank you, and you know, how inspiring. So know that, really know that. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you get lots of praise all the time. Well, I think it's time for me to do my little wrap up. And one thing, if people want to get in touch with you, because obviously a lot of people have been inspired, are you happy for people to get in touch with you if they've got questions and they want to kind of glean some tidbits or more formulas, secret sources and stuff that you've got going on? Yeah, good.
Absolutely.
I imagine that you will get people contacting you.
Yeah.
Great.
Happy to share.
Yeah.
Wonderful.